Ratman fell in love at first sight with a beautiful yokai named Yoko. Just because he bent down to pick up an apple, in just one day, they were married. They then embarked on their honeymoon, watching Yoko's beautiful figure as she bathed. Ratman could hardly believe the reality of it all. So, he pulled hard on one of his whiskers. The sharp pain made him realize that this was no dream. At that moment, Yoko slowly approached Ratman and began to massage him. Ratman quickly fell asleep. In his dreams, he envisioned a beautiful life with Yoko in the future. He worked hard every day to support the family. In order to spend more time with his wife, he turned down all his social engagements. He had even already chosen the names for their future children. But just as Ratman was lost in his dreams, Yoko secretly took all his money. All that money had been borrowed by Ratman so he could marry her. He was cornered by debt collectors and beaten severely, but the greatest pain wasn't from his battered body, it was from his broken heart. Ratman's friends took him home. They were yokai hunters, often helping humans solve various supernatural problems. Kitaro explained to Ratman the origin of Yoko. She was a yokai that specialized in deceiving men. Long ago, she often appeared at quarries, deceiving workers. Anyone who was massaged by her would fall into a deep sleep, only to have all their money stolen. Seeing the pitiful Ratman, Sunnycake Baba gave him a wallet to comfort him. Meanwhile, the hot-tempered cat girl decided to help him get revenge on Yoko. The group immediately sprang into action. As they investigated, they discovered that Yoko had deceived countless men. So, they decided to rally these men to help find her. Even so, some of the men still yearned for her. One man even fantasized about Yoko returning to him one day. Perhaps it is always the one who falls in love who ends up the most foolish. Ratman was one of them. At that moment, he happened to see a message about Yoko and her new boyfriend. He knew better than anyone else that if Yoko was found by these men, she would face terrible retribution. Following the trail of Yoko's new boyfriend, Ratman eventually found her. After knocking out her boyfriend with a single blow, he helped Yoko escape from the building surrounded by reporters. Ratman didn't blame her. Instead, he urged her to run away quickly. Kitaro and the others were already closing in on them. Yoko asked him why he was helping her. Ratman didn't answer. He just kept urging her to escape. At that moment, memories of the happy times he had spent with Yoko flashed through his mind. And then, out of nowhere, Yoko hugged him from behind, apologizing. Naively, Ratman thought that Yoko was moved by his actions. He didn't notice that she was massaging him. Ratman quickly fell unconscious. Yoko searched his entire body and found a wallet with only a few coins inside. Just then, Kitaro and the others arrived on the scene and witnessed everything. None of them had expected Yoko to be so heartless. As they were about to take action, Yoko quickly threw a stack of money into the air and took the chance to escape. But the fastest, Cat Girl, jumped in front of her. Just as Cat Girl was about to strike, Ratman suddenly rushed over and hugged Cat Girl. He then urged Yoko to escape. Yoko froze in place. Perhaps she didn't expect Ratman to help her once again. She turned and continued to run, but soon, she was surrounded by Kitaro and the others. In a moment of danger, Yoko transformed into a stone and broke through the encirclement. Just as she was about to escape, Kitaro summoned the sea priest. A huge arm shot out of the water and tightly grabbed Yoko in its palm. This time, Yoko could not escape. She began to scream for help. Ratman stood at the shore, motionless, listening to her cries. He seemed to be hesitating whether to save her, but as the sea priest carried Yoko away, she suddenly shouted, "I love you," toward Ratman. Hearing those words, Ratman made up his mind. He demanded that the sea priest release Yoko. The sea priest scoffed at him. In response, Ratman threatened the sea priest. If Yoko wasn't released, he would fight the sea priest. In that instant, there was no longer just a fool who kept being deceived. There was only a warrior protecting love. Finally, after Ratman's pleading, the sea priest released Yoko. Yoko stole everything from Ratman, except for that wedding ring. Ratman always believed that the ring held the love between him and Yoko, but time always fades everything. One day, Ratman took the ring to a pawn shop and exchanged it for 20,000 yen. Just as he walked out of the pawn shop, an apple rolled in front of him. Ratman picked it up and looked around, but he didn't see the same person as last time. He bit into the apple and turned to walk away. There is a yokai named Sunakosuri. It resembles a cat and feeds on the vital energy of humans. 100 years ago, Tsuneko Suri wandered into a prosperous village, but whenever someone came near it, the person would unintentionally have their vital energy drained by Tsuneko Suri. As a result, Tsuneko Suri's yokai powers would grow stronger. The humans whose vital energy was drained would quickly age and die, turning into mummified corpses. However, Tsuneko Suri was completely unaware of the disaster it caused. It didn't know that it was bringing harm to humans. It only wanted to be close to people, but this led to the deaths of several villagers. The once thriving village began to decline due to Tsuneko Suri's presence. The villagers believed that the village was cursed and decided to move away. Until one day, an elderly woman named Sato took it in and named it Snowball. They spent some happy time together. Tsuneko Suri became very fond of her and treated her like family. It even began to forget that it was a yokai. But happiness is always short-lived. Sato's health deteriorated day by day. Her son, Daiki, who had been working in another area, returned upon hearing the news to visit his mother. He hadn't come home in a long time, but when he saw the little cat in his mother's arms, he jokingly said that maybe his mother's illness was because she had taken in the sick cat. Unexpectedly, Daiki's joke made Sato very angry, and she kicked him out of the house in a fit of rage. In Sato's heart, Tsuneko Suri had become her family. Later, Daiki learned from a neighbor that in recent years, the village had been plagued with misfortune. Many villagers had died one by one. What was even more strange was that the bodies were all dried up, as if something had drained them of life. Just as the neighbor left, Tsuneko Suri found Daiki. It revealed its terrifying true form. It wanted to give Daiki the greatest warning because his appearance had caused Sato great sadness, but Tsuneko Suri's actions would ultimately change its fate with Sato. Daiki then sought out the yokai hunter, Kitaro, and asked him to investigate Tsuneko Suri. However, Kitaro was surprised to discover that Tsuneko Suri seemed to be unaware of its ability to drain human vital energy. When Sato became weak and started coughing incessantly, Tsuneko Suri would always comfort her, unaware of the harm it was causing. Then, Kitaro decided to subdue Tsuneko Suri first and then tell it the whole truth. Soon, they were in a struggle. During the standoff, Kitaro revealed the truth. He told Tsuneko Suri that if it continued to stay by Sato's side, she would eventually be drained of her vital energy and die. Sato reminded Tsuneko Suri of the memories of the past. Tsuneko Suri reminded Tsuneko Suri of the memories of the past, and its previous owner had died because of it. At this point, Tsuneko Suri seemed to believe what Sato said. It then ran home in a frenzy, like a child who had made a mistake. It curled up in Sato's arms. When it saw Sato smile, it instantly believed that Kitaro had been lying to it. But the very next second, Sato began coughing violently, her face twisted in pain. At that moment, Tsuneko Suri became terrified. It couldn't face the truth and chose to turn away and flee. The sky was drizzling with rain. Tsuneko Suri wandered aimlessly, much like a child who had lost its mother. It missed Sato terribly but feared that it would hurt her. Although it was just a yokai, it had already come to see Sato as its mother. In truth, Daiki had also been worried about his mother. After his father passed away, he decided to venture into the big city, but without an education, he could only take on simple jobs. He wanted to care for his mother but was too shy to say anything. Every time he returned home, he would end up arguing with her. Meanwhile, Sato was dragging her ailing body through the rain, searching for Tsuneko Suri, but she accidentally wandered into the territory of a grizzly bear. From a distance, Tsuneko Suri heard Sato scream. It rushed over desperately. Just as the critical moment arrived, Tsuneko Suri managed to bring down the bear to the ground, but it also got scratched by the bear's claws. The grizzly bear got up and, seeing the terrifying Tsuneko Suri, quickly ran away. However, when Sato saw Tsuneko Suri transformed into its monstrous form, she immediately recognized it as her Snowball. Even though Tsuneko Suri had turned into a monster, Sato wasn't afraid in the least. Tsuneko Suri, worried that Sato might get drenched in the rain, used its large tail to shield her from the wind and rain. They enjoyed a moment of warmth together in the cold rain of the night, but the warm moment was interrupted by Sato's intense coughing. Tsuneko Suri knew it had to leave her. Just then, Kitaro and Daiki arrived. Daiki saw his mother sitting on the ground, and mistakenly thought that Tsuneko Suri was trying to harm her. With courage, he stepped in front of his mother. In that moment, Daiki acted like a true son, determined to protect his mother. He would even allow Tsuneko Suri to eat him if it meant keeping his mother safe. Tsuneko Suri's heart was deeply pierced, but at the same time, it felt relieved. It knew that Daiki would continue to care for his mother. Tsuneko Suri realized that it no longer had any reason to stay. It deliberately showed its fierce side, and told Sato that it was a yokai that drained human vital energy. It hoped to scare everyone away with these words, but Sato replied that no matter what it became, it would always be her snowball. Sato's words caused even more pain for Tsunekosuri. It then pretended to want to eat Sato. Daiki immediately used his umbrella to attack Tsunekosuri. Tsunekosuri pretended to be afraid and turned to run away. Around its neck, it still wore the collar that Sato had given it. In a daze, it recalled the happy times spent with Sato. As the collar fell from its neck, Tsunekosuri never again appeared in the human world. Kazuki met a girl and fell in love with her at first sight. Immediately, he pulled out a love letter and confessed his feelings to her. However, he didn't know that the girl was not human, but a yokai with the power to control ice and snow. Yukiana. Even after learning that she was a yokai, Kazuki's love for her remained unwavering. Yukiana was impressed by his determination and agreed to date him for a while to see how things would go. In contrast to Yukiana's cold and indifferent personality, Kazuki was filled with endless passion. No matter where he saw Yukiana, he would loudly express his love for her. Though Yukiana found Kazuki's way of expressing himself a bit exasperating, she still did her best to fulfill her role as his girlfriend. Whenever Kazuki came to find her, she would always rush to his side. She would even cook meals for him herself. Strawberry shaved ice with fresh small fish was Yukiana's favorite dessert. Yukiana's room was extremely cold. In such an environment, eating a bowl of shaved ice made Kazuki worry about his stomach, but in order not to disappoint Yukiana's intentions, he forced himself to finish the bowl of shaved ice. Afterwards, Kazuki immediately ran into the bathroom to take a hot bath. While Yukiana was tidying up his clothes, she heard Kazuki complaining. However, Kazuki didn't say anything offensive. He just thought that Yukiana's house was simply too cold. In a fit of anger, Yukiana froze the entire bathroom into ice blocks. She then told Kazuki that he would be better off looking for a human woman to date. After saying that, she left. Kazuki realized he had said the wrong thing. To make it up to her, he went to Kitaro for help. Since both Kitaro and Yukiana were yokai, he thought Kitaro might have a solution, but Kitaro was only good at catching yokai. So, Kitaro handed the task over to Ratman to handle, but the naive Kazuki actually believed in Ratman. This unreliable person, following Ratman's advice, Kazuki prepared moldy bread and a rotten cantaloupe as an apology gift for Yukiana. But in reality, these were Ratman's favorite foods. Yukiana, who was starting to feel a bit better, became even more upset after seeing the trash. Yukiana's mother advised her to break up with Kazuki. After all, humans and yokai had different lifespans. Moreover, Yukiana's kind could only appear in the winter, and living with humans would lead to many problems. Listening to her mother's advice, Yukiana decided to break up with Kazuki. To be honest, Yukiana was never really sure if she liked Kazuki. After hearing her mother's words, she also felt that they weren't suited for each other. After Yukiana left, Ratman approached Kazuki to apologize. Ratman decided to introduce Kazuki to a new girlfriend. The next day, Yukiana told her friends about her breakup with Kazuki. It was at that moment that Yukiana was shocked to see Kazuki, who had just broken up with her, with another woman. Heartbroken, Yukiana hurriedly ran away from the scene. Kazuki wanted to chase after her and explain, but the woman wouldn't let him go. It turned out that this woman was a snake demon. She had originally planned to lure Kazuki to her home and eat him, but now she had no choice but to act immediately. Meanwhile, Yukiana finally understood her own feelings. When she saw Kazuki with another woman, her heart suddenly ached. This feeling caused her great pain. Her friends explained to her that this was called jealousy, an emotion that arises when you like someone. Just then, a passerby, running for his life, told Yukiana that Kazuki had been captured by the snake demon. Upon hearing this, Yukiana immediately rushed in Kazuki's direction. When Kazuki saw Yukiana running towards him, he quickly urged her to leave. But instead, Yukiana slapped him across the face. She then poured out all her feelings. She hated Kazuki's excessive enthusiasm. She hated how he never thought before speaking. In short, she hated all of Kazuki's bad habits. But despite all of that, she had fallen in love with him. The ignored snake demon, unable to tolerate it any longer, wrapped her tail tightly around Kazuki. Yukiana, seeing this, wanted to save Kazuki, but she wasn't a match for the snake demon. In this dire moment, Kitaro appeared just in time. However, He had been staying up late playing video games and hadn't slept for 3 days and nights. In his daze, Kitaro mistook the snake demon for a game character. He even used a skill from the game to attack the snake demon. The snake demon was caught off guard and was defeated, collapsing onto the ground. Once again, Kitaro resolved the crisis. The love between humans and yokai is destined to be full of challenges, but as long as they truly love each other, they can overcome all obstacles.